At 4, we're learning new details concerning a homicide investigation in Lincoln.
Police say two men in their 40s were struck by a car near the Lodge Apartments in southeast Lincoln. Officers were dispatched to the area yesterday afternoon, south of Nebraska Parkway and east of 40th Street. Investigators say a woman was behind the wheel of a car that ran the men over. Both died at the scene. Their names have not yet been released. However, both were maintenance workers at the apartment complex where they were hit.
Taylor Bradley is 27 and charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder in their deaths. Lincoln police are working to determine if there's a motive for the crime.